Welcome everyone to another Company of Heroes 2 replay cast. This time we're going to have a 2v2 on Minsk Pocket. Lovely map, of course. And it's going to be sent in from kotu.org, uploaded by Immature, playing on the North spawn as the Wehrmacht. And his friend is going to be Burmy, playing as the OKW. And on the enemy team we're going to have Laja, playing as the British, and Slayer, playing as the USF. So we appear to have 4 different factions. That's going to be very, very fun to watch. Laja already picking a doctrine, in fact, Commando Regiment. Now, Commando Regiment on this map, I'm not too much a fan of, but we'll see, we'll see. And I think my music is off. No, it's just volume's low. Okay. Hold on. That's a little bit too high. Okay. Infantry sections are already coming out from Laja. If the thing up here were to, allow me to look at Laja, that would be better, but oh well. On the enemy side, we're going to have a Kübelwagen coming in from Burmy. Obviously, Kübelwagen very good on this map for capturing all these far-flung locations with all the basically cutoffs that you can use the Kübelwagen to good order. Now, here comes the Sturm Pioneers. They're going to be able to close the distance with these infantry sections. Unfortunately, there isn't much cover for the infantry sections to actually stand behind, but there is a second squad coming in to rescue the first beleaguered squad, which is going to send these Sturm Pioneers packing if they're smart enough. If they're not smart enough, they're just going to stand there and take a huge pounding from these Lee Enfields that are going to be firing at them from basically six infantry section members who have survived the first assault, and that's going to make these Sturm Pioneers flee. Now, on the other side of the map, we do see a bit of a push from Slayer. Slayer has managed to capture the munitions point and now has hold up his rear echelons in this building, which is going to be interesting because there's only some Pioneers for Immature that are able to in any way oppose these guys, so at long range they won't really be able to do much, but there is a sniper coming in. Sniper might not really be the best choice so early on in the game though, because as you can see, the Germans are really starting to lack in map control because of the lack of capping ability that the sniper comes with. Now, up here we see that the Kübelwagen is starting to put down some fire on the infantry sections. There is some infantry sections trying to do some flanking fire on the Kübelwagen. It's kind of working, but there's only 2 guys left, so they aren't really able to put down that much damage, and the second squad is going to be able to maybe deal enough damage to the Volksgrenadiers so that they're gonna have to retreat. In the meantime, the sniper is starting to get to work, but unfortunately he's only firing at the rear echelons, which means that the more expensive and more important riflemen are kind of surviving and are able to put down a lot of M1 Garand fire on the sniper and force him to retreat. There are some Grenadiers trying to come in and rescue the sniper, but the sniper had to retreat, so he won't really be able to do much to help this fight, and the Grenadiers at close range against the riflemen, even with the advantage in terms of the HP that they have, are probably going to be overwhelmed, especially with the supporting fire coming in from the rear echelon troops in the house, and the machine gun trying to set up to defend the fuel point is going to be caught off guard by the riflemen and forced to retreat, which means that the riflemen are going to be able to capture the fuel point. Very, very well done on Slayer. Slayer has also managed to obtain Ved 1 on his first rifleman squad, and he's also got his third rifleman squad sitting in this watchtower, which is not a good idea because he's essentially losing 3 rifles by doing that. Only 2 riflemen are firing out of that, whereas normally 5 riflemen would be firing into these Pioneers, and so he's losing a little bit of damage anyway. Looks like the sniper forced away these riflemen along with a combination of Sturm Pioneers and Grenadiers, while Burmy is kind of setting up to be a decent anchor on the left side of the map. He's got a few points captured, he's got the munitions secured, he's starting to lay down some mines with those munitions, so really good play, and he's setting up his battle group headquarters in a position that he can use to pretty easily just retreat to and control the left side of the map from. Now, the Germans are able to recapture the fuel point. I think that Immature is waiting for the MG42AS, and he will send the sniper back to the front lines to actually serve as a combat unit. Very good play there. Doesn't want your sniper just wasting away capturing points. Really no use for such an expensive and valuable unit. And right now, Mr. Slayer is starting to recapture some of his points on the right side that he never got a chance to actually just get in his favor. Now, a bunch of infantry sections are going to be coming through. With the support of a Vickers machine gun, are going to be able to easily mow down these Volksgrenadiers. Volksgrenadiers are upgrading the STG-44s, but they will not be able to make use of those in time. In fact, they will be lucky to escape with their lives, and very, very close on that retreat. That would have been a very, very bad thing had he lost those Fluxioniers, but thankfully for him, he managed to keep them alive, Burmy, so keeps that squad and the veterancy and the munitions he spent on the upgrade, so very nice. Mortar is on the field for Slayer, starting to fire on the Grenadiers. They are trying to defend the central VP, but also I think he thought there was the machine gun set up over here, which isn't the case, so at least machine gun is kind of safe from the mortar fire. It's back protecting the fuel point, in fact, doesn't want anyone coming back and flanking, trying to neutralize the fuel point in an harassment movement, so just a precautionary measure, but this also means that the machine gun isn't being used in any other fighting. Of course, here comes a rifle grenade, pretty decent damage on the mortar crew, but mortar crew is able to escape and also lobs out a very murderous shell upon the Grenadiers, takes out about 90% of their HP. Kubowagen manages to do quite a flank on the Vickers machine gun and do a lot of damage against it, but it's taking damage. It had exposed its rear armor to the fire of those Enfields, which can already do quite a bit of damage to the frontal armor, so obviously even worse for this Kubowagen. Of course, the smoke from the wreck is kind of helping the Germans a little bit because it's allowing all these German troops to be covered from these infantry sections. Here comes the fire on this Volksgrenadier squad. It's going to go down. Nice focus fire from Laja, and in fact, he might lose his own squad if he doesn't pay too much attention to it. The Grenadiers are just definitely pretty accurate. Maybe not as deadly as the infantry sections, but no joke. And here comes down some artillery fire from the pyrotechnics supplied infantry section, which might be a bit of a scary thought for all these German squads sitting nearby. It's not very effective nor accurate, but it's very random and might just wipe your squad without a second thought. Here, the machine gun is starting to actually be involved in the fight a little bit more because the American riflemen are trying to flank around, and unfortunately, all these bushes kind of provide enough line of sight cover for these riflemen, but they were running straight onto these Stern Pioneers with these STG-44s. Are going to be able to deal huge amounts of damage to the riflemen. In fact, they might be able to wipe them, but they don't seem to be too interested. They seem to be more interested in these other riflemen that are just storming the back lines and being a nuisance in general. There is a Stuart coming out from Slayer. He does have the captain tier upgraded, which means that soon enough the Germans are going to have to get some AT on the way. Immature is going for the flame projectors on his 251 half-track, so the flame half-track is going to be obviously very good at countering any kind of support weapons that the Allies bring out, such as the Vickers or the mortar, if it can get obviously in line of sight of the mortar. But it's also going to be a decent tool against the infantry. Nice move from Immature, sending his Pioneers, which he doesn't need in the fights, to harass the right side of the map of the munitions point, and hopefully of the victory point as well. This is going to create a nuisance for the Americans and have basically force them to send one of the rifleman squads on over to the right side to recapture those points, because he's lost his rear echelons. Not sure how, but that's not good. And exactly as I said, very dangerous against those support weapons who are not able to just retreat instantly and have to sit there in the flames while the setup is working. And also these riflemen are taking a huge amount of damage from the flame projectors. Very close to going down, but the max range shot kind of misses, kind of doesn't hit. And the riflemen are able to run away, but he's, I think, running a bit too close with the flame half-track against the Ved 1 riflemen, who do have the ability to throw those anti-tank rifle grenades or shoot those anti-tank rifle grenades. And in fact, here comes the Stuart to finish off the poor 51 half-track, and that's probably going to be the end of it, because there's the stun coming in from the shell shock. 45 munitions well spent from the Stuart, and along with the AEC from Laja, are going to be able to easily take out the flame half-track. There is a Rakenver from the field for Burmy. Tons of smoke making me lag, unfortunately, but smoke is also going to cover, weirdly enough, the retreat of the Rakenver, even though it was meant, obviously, to cover the retreat of the AEC. There are also some mines from Laja. I would kind of like to see some Teller mines out of Immature, now that he sees the armored vehicles on the field with all their glory, especially with these Pioneers on the right side. And here comes some Panzerfaust, in fact, to use up those munitions and make sure that he does not have any munitions for those mines. Unfortunately, all the Panzerfausts were expended. The Stuart is pretty much 2 Panzerfausts away from death, but Immature does not have enough munitions for another one. He's going to be just about right in time with one more Panzerfaust. Here comes another Panzerfaust, but he was only 1 Panzerfaust away from dying. Excellent play with the infantry going to be chasing down decisively the Stuart. Not something you see every day, but the Stuart definitely overextended just as much as the 251 half-track had done on the German side. Now, these two rifleman squads are going to be able to easily take out those pioneers and force them to retreat, but they're going to have to waste a lot of time capturing these points again. And that's just the power of harassment. Same thing happened on the left side of the map with the Allies. Here comes some commandos from the glider. Now, I think the glider was built a little bit, or called in a little bit too far forward into the front lines. In fact, very good job from Lajah placing down those mines, but again, I really think that the glider should have been called down in, for example, this location, because it stays on the field, and after, of course, landing on the ground, it stays in the field and provides a reinforcement point for your infantry. So I still think that keeping it alive is more useful, especially because you're paying 500 manpower for the commando glider, which is, I think, 150 more than the cost of a commando unit if you buy a commando from the HQ glider. I think they're 350 manpower. I haven't used that doctrine in forever, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I think they're 350 manpower, so if you're just paying 150 manpower for a reinforcement point, you better make sure that it survives, especially because it's one of these very fragile gliders. If the German mortar that I hear firing... Wait, what? Oh, it would say stolen American mortar. Very good job by Burmy actually capturing the mortar. Nice Panzerfaust coming in on the AC. Unfortunately, the Germans are getting flanked, and our artillery barrage is coming down from this Pyrotechnics squad. Very good job coming down from the flank and throwing the flare over the ridge and the trees. Unfortunately for them, they were going to be caught out by these lovely Stern Pioneers, and the Stern Pioneers are going to be able to at least force them to retreat. But there is a huge amount of British squads coming down, and they're going to be able to, along with the artillery support, pinning down the German squads over here and forcing them to move away. You're going to be able to cause a lot of damage against Burmy. So Burmy right now definitely getting pushed into the battle group headquarters a little bit too much. In the meantime, in the center, the sniper is starting to get down to work. 13 kills is definitely not too shabby. There are 2 bars actually on the captain, so 2 bars and a Thompson. This squad is now very, very effective against infantry, especially at closer ranges, which is exactly why these Grenadiers are kind of making a mistake in charging close. I think they were in attack move because they were coming in from the northeast, and they had their line of sight blocked. Very good shot from the sniper with the incendiary armor piercing round. That's of course 45 munitions, which is pretty much his 2-minute his munitions income for 2 minutes. So Immature using those very expensive rounds needs to be kind of careful in order to not just run out of munitions, because again, he also has to use his munitions on other things, such as his Grenadiers. His Grenadiers are definitely not upgraded at all. He's going to have to change that if he wants to compete with the Riflemen, with the double BARs later on in the game, especially once they get a few pips of veterancy. Now, I think Slayer made a mistake in upgrading this squad instead of this squad, because this squad has Vet 2 already. So having that squad with 2 BARs and Vet 2 would be much more dangerous than this one squad. Of course, running it into a machine gun, doesn't matter how vetted they are, they're still going to get suppressed by the MG42, obviously very effective at suppressing infantry. Now, the MG34 from Burmy was taken out by a combination of artillery fire, looks like, and the AC. AC getting popped by the Raketenwerfer, but it's going to pop smoke and be able to escape. In the meantime, Volksgrenadiers barely able to make it out, and these other Volksgrenadiers are making a heroic stand, but they're not going to be able to withstand the amount of fire that the Americans and the British are coming down against them. Of course, what I think they were trying to do is salvage the MG34, but not salvage, capture. If it was any other, if it was any other army, then that salvage would not actually be so ambiguous. Now, the Riflemen and the Captain in the center are going to be repulsed once more by the MG42 fire from the Germans. Definitely good usage of that from Immature, and again, he's sending his weaker squads on the right side of the map to capture those points. Very good job, and right now, he's starting to tech up a little bit. He's going for the battle phase free, which is definitely a good decision in my opinion right now, because the Allies did have a few light vehicles on the field, so going for the later game units, if you have managed to withstand the light vehicle onslaught, can in fact work in your favor, because obviously the enemy is going to have less of their own later vehicle units because they've already spent a lot of fuel on light vehicles. Now, on the right side, again, forcing a bunch of riflemen to to withdraw from the normal duties in the center and come in and recapture these points. Thankfully, the Grenadiers are able to retreat in good order, only losing a couple men from those BARs. And in the center, I don't think the Allies are going to be able to win this fight if the sniper keeps up its fire, especially with the incendiary armor piercing rounds coming in, going to be stunning the Vet 2 rifleman. Obviously, pretty dangerous squad right now. Doesn't want him laying down a lot of fire. And these infantry sections should definitely be capturing this MG34. I feel like if they don't capture it, it's going to bite them in the rear soon enough. Of course, the sniper is kind of in trouble, and he's going to have to retreat. Thankfully, being covered by the MG42, managing to suppress these infantry sections just at the right time. But at the same time, being flanked by the riflemen with the BERs, and I think this MG42 is done for. At this close of a range, even if they retreated in time, they wouldn't have been able to live. There is a Pyrotechnics artillery barrage coming in, but I don't think it will be enough to destroy the MG42 because of its very weak accuracy. And again, the Germans were able to recover the MG34 because of the fact that the Allies were not in any way zealous in recapturing it, which was a mistake. And just as right now they have left the mortar in the hands of the Germans and it's got 12 kills, I think leaving that MG34 in the hands of the OKW is going to be proving a bad move for Mr. Laja. Laja does have quite a bit of fuel right now. He might be saving for a Sherman Firefly, anticipating that the Germans are going to be going for the later game vehicles such as the Panther or the Brumbear. Brumbear right now would not be too bad of a thing, based on what they see the Germans or the Allies having. Very nice grenade, by the way, on the mortar. Going to be taking out the Vet 3 on that, so quite worth it for a few points of munitions. And again, they might not know what the Allies are going for, so maybe a Brumbear might not be too good of an idea considering the amount of information that they do possess. But the Allies don't really have any anti-tank guns on the field. There is only 157mm that was just bought by Slayer. And Slayer does have enough resources for the Pershing in terms of fuel, but it looks like he's saving up for it, which is a really bad idea because right now, as you can see, he has 9 command points, and the Pershing is 13 command points, or rather requires 13 command points for you to bring it in. So having that 13 command points requirement when you are 4 command points behind for it means that he really does not need to be saving up the fuel for it right now. He can spend it on something else, especially spend it on something that can help him survive to that point and keep just a decent amount of map control up until that point. So I think a Major right now would not be too bad of an idea with a Jackson. Yeah, it's going to delay his Pershing a little bit because he still has to buy the Major upgrade, so he's not going to be able to bring out that Jackson quite right away, but eventually it's going to be a good long-term investment for him. Now, the infantry sections over here are going to be trying to throw down an artillery flare. He's been using those pretty liberally, which I like that. It's kind of keeping Burmy on his toes, especially because he has been able to kind of force him into the security of the battle group headquarters. In the meantime, very nice job with the commandos. Going to be taking out the Volksgrenadiers with a very nice push. And right now, Burmy is starting to run out of infantry. He does have an Oberstleutnant squad, but they're running away, and so he's starting to lose the map control on the left side a tiny bit. His Volksgrenadiers are trying to come in from the flank, but he does not have enough munitions for the incendiary grenade. In the meantime, though, something much more interesting is happening. Well, maybe not much more interesting, but definitely interesting is happening in the center. Immature has completely turned around the tables on Slayer and is keeping sort of the blob of American units almost pinned in the base. Not completely, but definitely keeping them on the defensive, which is not what I would be expecting. And right now, again, the Allies leaving an MG42 in the hands of the Germans. This is the one that was destroyed by the flanking riflemen earlier on. And right now, it would have been a very easy pickings because Immature had been forced back to the base to replenish and heal up his squads. So I think that, again, leaving those support weapons to the Germans is just keeping them in the game needlessly, as well as the fact that the Allies are not really using their fuel. Just like in the last cast, where the Allies didn't really use their fuel advantage, right now they could be doing something because, again, they have this fuel cache and they have a lot of fuel income, they've had a lot of fuel income compared to the Axis. Right now, the Axis are a little bit ahead, but that's because they captured a ton of points on the right, thanks to Immature's good harassment with the Grenadiers. But if that wasn't the case, then the Allies would be ahead anyway. So yeah, they would have had a superior fuel income. And again, they still have this advantage that they're not using, and right now, Burmy is getting close to that command panther. He has picked this doctrine, it's special operations, obviously very dangerous, and here comes the AC to force back these Obersoldaten who were capturing the very important strategic point over here because it's obviously decapturing the munitions point. Very nice cutoff on the part of Burmy before he even captures the munitions. Sniper is up to 31 kills, which against the Americans is definitely good. Pretty much against anyone but the Soviets, and even against the Soviets and the Soviet players using a lot of guards, riflemen, or shock troops. The Sniper is going to be bleeding manpower at a ridiculous rate, and here comes the Brumbear, in fact, from Immature. I feel like he could have gone for the Panther, but the Brumbear is probably going to prove itself worthy, especially if the Allies are lacking in AT, as they are doing right now, and they're walking around with big amounts of infantry close by. And, in fact, 2 kills in its first, well, 1 kill in its first shot, and it's upgrading the MG42, which is going to make it even more effective against infantry, and in general, the Brumbear is probably going to prove to be a bane for these American riflemen blobs. Now, the Command Panther is on the field for Burmy, which is going to definitely augment the German anti-tank capabilities and general anti-vehicle capabilities with that lovely coordinated fire ability, which doubles the amount of damage that you do against a vehicle. For only 35 munitions, it is an incredible bargain, actually, compared to the 80 munitions of the Mark target for the Soviets, which is exactly the same ability. Maybe it lasts a little bit longer, but I'm not sure. And again, in fact, here comes the Panther. There is absolutely nothing that the British can do, because remember, the British don't have any anti-tank grenades that can snare the Panther. The AC does have the target tread ability, which he is not using, unfortunately. That's definitely a mistake. He's going to pop the smoke, but what he should have done is use target tread just after he had fired the first shot and then use the smoke. Target tread does manage to go down even after the AC dies, but it's not going to be enough because the engine damage, again, there's nothing to follow it up, so really can't bring up any kind of unit to finish off the Panther. There is a Comet, right, a Comet on the field. Going to be much more useful against the Brumbear than against the Panther. I think if Laja was smart, he would bring the Comet up to support his ally on the right side of the map. In fact, Slayer is losing his last piece of anti-tank. In fact, his first and last piece of anti-tank. That's definitely very bad for him when he's going to be facing that Brumbear, absolutely demolishing his infantry, already up to 4 kills. And the Pershing is on the field as well, so again, I think these two units would be much more useful on the right side, where poor Immature only has 2 packs, which are quite immobile comparatively to the very mobile Pershing and Comet, which can just run around the packs. And as you can see, the coordinated fire ability managing to help out the Reckenver for quite a ton and dealing a huge amount of damage against this Pershing. Very, very good, and it's also, I believe, keeping it spotted. Oh no, actually it doesn't. So that's the difference between Mark Vehicle and the coordinated fire. Mark Vehicle spots the unit, at least for as long as the unit is marked and the plane is alive. But again, pretty decent for only 35 munitions to have that very nice damage boost. These riflemen should definitely run away and not try to use an anti-tank rifle grenade, because again, it's at full HP. So it being at full HP means that it's going to shrug off the first anti-tank grenade. Thankfully for the rifleman, it was still reloading, so it kind of survived that, the rifleman survived that encounter quite easily and without a scratch. But again, had it not been reloading, I think they would have met a very, very bad end, and it would have become pretty much sauerkraut. It would have been just pulped into nothing by that 152mm that the Sturmpanzer uses. Now, interesting usage of the Brumbear. He's being very aggressive with it, and in fact takes an engine damage for his quick troubles because, again, Brumbear has a quite long range. He hasn't been able to really use it to his advantage quite a lot because he's kind of pushing with it without any support, and I think that's his only mistake really in his handling of his units so far. The 2 packs are in the center, and they're not really doing much, but again, you can't really put your packs in too bold of a place, because what if you put them somewhere else and then the Pershing comes in from the center or from the side and flanks you? So I think just keeping them conservatively in the center is the best usage for them. Again, this machine gun is just making mincemeat of the commandos, and in general, the allies are just not learning to not walk into the center, just front forward. They should have been doing some more flanking from the right side of the map. Now, Here comes the Comet doing a little bit of damage against the Command Panther, but the Command Panther is going to answer in kind with quite a few shots coming down from the 75mm, and the Comet is in a very overextended position. If I turn on the Fog of War, he does not see anything of what's going on in this part of the map, so he does not know what's coming from here. This is not exactly how you want your expensive tank to be. Now, he's lucky that the Comet is a very, very mobile tank, even in reverse mode, in general, in any terrain, and can escape quite easily, especially thanks to his 5 phosphorus shell, or smoke shell before the bed 1. So it can still use those very nice traits of his to actually escape, but again, not really ideal to be sending your tank without any support into the Fog of War, and it might just die. So you don't want that to happen, obviously. And here comes the fact that Panzerfaust is going to be damaging the engine of the Comet. Now, the Comet is far enough away that I think they will be able to successfully escape with its life, but it's still not enough. 2 packs managing to force the Pershing to retreat and give space to the Brumbear to deal with the infantry. So very good combined arms play with the AT guns, the Riflemen, Grenadiers, and the Brumbear. Brumbear is going to be taking an anti-tank rifle grenade once again for its troubles, but there is a Pioneer squad right nearby for the repairs. I feel like Immature could be going for a second Pioneer squad with the amount of resources that he has. In fact, he's going for it right now. He's read my mind pretty much. And here comes the Panther and takes out the Comet, I think. Yes, I think that this shapeless corpse is the Comet because there is no Comet. I am pretty much Sherlock Holmes, I know. And the Panther taking some fire from the front from the 6-pounder, but it's not going to be enough. Panther obviously having very good armor. Going to be trying to squish the poor Commandos, but the Commandos quite smartly don't get themselves squished. Of course, they're getting themselves shot, which is a little bit harder to dodge than the speeding Panther. Panther, in fact, also kind of showing its rear armor to the anti-tank gun. Shot from the Panther hits the anti-tank gun directly. I've almost never seen that happen. Very lucky on the Panther, and in fact it's going to be able to run down the AT gun because it's trying to retreat to the safety of his friends, but his friends can't do anything to help him out because they're still healing up at base and they don't have any anti-tank grenades anyway, even if they were able to come in and actually help the anti-tank gun. Brumbear up to 10 kills already, definitely complementing what Immature is doing with the rest of his units quite well. Unfortunately, the Sniper has gone down after I think about 35 kills must have been. So good play with the Sniper overall. Unfortunately, it was lost in the later stages of the game, but it still definitely helped Immature quite a lot in thinning out the ranks of the American infantry and making sure that he was going to be bleeding a ton of manpower, which delayed the Pershing quite a bit and delayed also the Major Tech, which he's only now managed to acquire. And in general, that would have been quite the pain had they been able to support the Pershing with a Jackson, because he does have the amount of fuel required for the Jackson, but he does not have the manpower. Why does he not have the manpower? Because the Sniper bled him to death, and because he kept running into that machine gun, and because he left the machine guns to the Germans. So I would say that those were the main problem for the Allies. One, misuses their light vehicles. Absolutely misused their light vehicles, which they could have used to hunt down those snipers, and in general be a lot more of a nuisance to the Germans, as opposed to using them like shock units, frontline units that they did. Now, Immature has gotten out a Panther on the field. I feel like a Panzerwerfer would have been a better idea, or maybe even a Tiger tank from the Lightning War doctrine. The reason I say that is because I feel like the Panther just lacks the anti-infantry capabilities, and the Allies are still sporting quite the decent infantry compartment. Of course, not Mr. Laja, because his infantry has been pretty much decimated, but Slayer does still have quite a lot of infantry available to him, and right now I haven't even talked about the VPs because they have been pretty much even the entire game, but right now the Germans are about to grab themselves a triple cap, and that's going to be very bad for the Allies because they have about 5 minutes and a half left of triple cap juice, I guess. Obviously, again, as I remember, pretty much every cast I do, triple cap, very bad. Every 3 seconds, 3 VPs ticks down. So 1 second, 1 VP, effectively. So what ends up happening is you lose basically about as quick as your victory points are showing you. So right now, triple cap, if the Allies have 300 VPs, then they would lose in 300 seconds. So 5 minutes. Wait, 5 minutes? Am I retarded? No, I'm not. Good. And here comes the Pershing and another Comet. Definitely not what the Panther wants to be facing. with the Vet 2 on the Pershing, he is able to use those HVAP armor-piercing rounds and does have a mobility increase, which is never bad on the Pershing, which is already a pretty fast tank in and of itself. At long range, the Panther is going to be suffering because of the superior penetration, the superior abilities, and also the superior armor of these two allied tanks. But with the support of the second Panther and the buffs that the Command Panther is going to be giving those second Panthers, and also the aid-to-tank guns that are going to be supporting those Panthers, then two allied tanks really don't stand a chance. Now, of course, this is kind of, well, basing on the fact that the Germans are going to be playing with a decent amount of combined arms. Now, this is not necessarily the case, but right now they're kind of holding their cohesion together quite well. They have the packs and the Panthers supporting each other. And right now, again, if the allies were just to send their units where the enemy isn't, so for example the right side, and do a flank from there, he would be able to nab that Sturmpanzer very easily, and then get out, repair, do it again with another isolated unit that's maybe not the pack wall along with two Panthers. Another big mistake that the allies are doing is just playing into the Germans' cards, which is, well, just sending their tanks into the wall of AT that the Germans have set up. If you notice what the Germans were doing earlier, especially the Brumbear from Immature, he saw that the allies were having most of their anti-tank on the left side of the map and the center, so he sent the Brumbear on the right. And there it did quite a lot of damage. It got a few kills and was able to wipe a few squads. It got 24 kills in general. Here comes the killing shot on the Comet, and I think that's going to be over. Slayer and Lodge surrender. I've already talked about most of their mistakes, I feel like. Yeah, let's do a quick recap. Leaving support weapons to the enemy is never a good idea. And also, just kind of headbutting into the defenses of the Germans is also never a good idea. Not really doing enough harassment work and flanking work on the flanks also kind of doomed them a little bit, and also not using their resources quite as effectively as they could have. In the end, they also floated quite a bit of munitions, which, considering the air supremacy operation is available to Lodja, along with the assault ability, which is actually very underrated and quite useful. More recover also not being too bad because of the suppression that it does provide. Well, kind of suppression. The White Phosphorus is quite useful against enemy infantry. And Slayer not really using his munitions to upgrade his infantry as much as he could have. Not really getting bazookas on his rear echelon troops was also a mistake considering the amount of armor that he was facing. That definitely did not help. And yeah, what was the last thing? I think I'm missing something. Well, maybe not. Yeah, I think not. So I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the cast. I hope you learned something. And I'll see you soon. Good game to everyone.